safety Damar Hamlin. Hamlin had his heartbeat restored on the field after a collision resulted in cardiac arrest during last night's game against the Bengals, and he is currently in critical condition at a Cincinnati hospital. CPR was administered to the 24-year-old on the field for several minutes after he collapsed from tackling Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. Hamlin received oxygen as he was placed in an ambulance and taken off the field 16 minutes after the event. The NFL later postponed the game. His family has released the following statement. Here's the statement. On behalf of our family, we want to express our sincere gratitude for the love and support shown to Damar during this challenging time. We are deeply moved by the prayers, kind words, and donations from fans around the country. We also want to acknowledge the dedicated first responders and healthcare professionals at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center who have provided exceptional care to Damar. We feel so blessed to be part of the Buffalo Bills organization and to have their support. We also want to thank Coach Taylor and the Bengals for everything they've done. Your generosity and compassion means the world to us. Please keep Damar in your prayers. We will release updates as soon as we have them. The Buffalo Bills also released this statement in the past hour. Damar Hamlin spent last night in the intensive care unit and remains there today in critical condition at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. We are grateful and thankful for the outpouring of support we have received thus far. Our national reporter, Coley Harvey, is at the hospital in Cincinnati. Coley, what's the scene like at the hospital at this hour?
Max, for the viewers who may have seen our earlier live shots this morning, it was pouring rain, and that was keeping a lot of people away from coming to this venue. I've noticed in the last hour or so more fans, Bengals fans, Bills fans, also fans of other NFL teams wearing their team jersey to support the fraternity of what the NFL is and what it means to not just have the players to be their identifiers, but the teams themselves. And I happen to notice a little ways down the tribute that we've seen begin to grow just a little bit. There were fans who were here last night who had a little bit of a makeshift candlelight vigil as they were trying to show their support for Damar Hamlin, and that vigil now is beginning to grow. We're seeing some of the candles from last night. Now there's more. We're starting to see a couple of more flowers. We're beginning to see more posters. So we're seeing that transpire right now. We also had a chance to talk with a Bills fan who's from Western New York, drove down to see the game last night, and he is currently somewhere en route between here and Buffalo as he's heading back home. I talked with this Bills fan, Andrew, and he said, you know, when I asked him how he's feeling at this moment in time, he said he feels lost and shocked because he still hasn't quite grappled what all of this means. And that's certainly the sentiment that we're catching from people who are coming through here, who are beginning to stop through to pay some level of tribute to Damar Hamlin.
Coley, you were with Stefon Diggs, who visited the hospital last night. What have you heard from him?
Yeah, so last night, Stefon Diggs came to the hospital not very long after the game was postponed initially, and he got out right at this corner where I'm standing right here, got out of an Uber, started to walk around looking for the emergency room entrance. I came up to him and helped him get to that entrance. In fact, we came up to a police officer at one point who really wasn't going to let either of us go any further. I knew I couldn't go, but I had to tell the cop, this is not only one of the most popular players in the NFL right now, but this is also the teammate of the player who was inside this building. And as Stefon said to me at that moment, just before we talked to the cop, he said, this is my teammate. This is so frustrating right now. I have to be here. I have to be able to support my guy. And so he was eventually let in by that police officer who was simply doing his job just to make sure he was controlling who was allowed to come in and who wasn't. So that's the emotion. A word I've used some is desperation from Bills players to find answers, to figure out what is the next step, what is happening with Damar Hamlin. And we're hopefully going to learn more soon in the coming days.
Thank you, Coley. Now, regarding the postponed Bills-Bengals game, the NFL released this statement. The NFL continues to be in regular contact with the medical team caring for Damar Hamlin and also the Bills and Bengals organizations and the NFL Players Association. After speaking with both teams and the NFLPA leadership, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell informed the clubs today that the Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed this week. The NFL has made no decision regarding the possible resumption of the game at a later date. The league has not made any changes to the Week 18 regular season schedule. We will continue to provide additional information as it becomes available. Our senior NFL writer, Jeremy Fowler, joins me now from Bills facility in Orchard Park, New York. Jeremy, what's the latest on Damar?
Well, Max, I've corresponded with Ron Butler, one of Damar Hamlin's agents, and I was told that there are no major updates as of yet. Everybody involved is still just waiting and praying for Hamlin as he, hopefully comes out of this and that they get good news. Now, the Buffalo Bills are in a situation where they had a team meeting today with coaches and players, which is standard for their usual Tuesday, but this was a lot different because I spoke to somebody with the team who said it's tough because we just want updates on Damar and the details are scarce right now. So we're trying to make sense of this, trying to process it all, and we're just hopeful for positive results here soon.
Jeremy, we now know that the Bills-Bengals game will not be played this week. What are you hearing about the Bills' reaction to this news?
Well, the people I've spoken to are really not overly surprised here. I talked to a Bills member of the personnel team who said that really be surprised if this game gets played again at all because there's no easy way to do it. You have New England this week. That's part of the Week 18 slate that is still in play. And then after that, you got the playoffs coming up. You got the wild card rounds. And so it just would be tough to make up. They don't know how they would do it. So maybe they have to come to a situation where Buffalo and Cincinnati or any other AFC teams in the mix have some sort of tie that they have to break in another way. But right now, the Bills, I know, that is the very last thing from their mind, just talking to people in and around this team. They simply want details on what's going on with Damar.
Thank you, Jeremy. A man who played the same position as Damar in the NFL and experienced his own health crisis during his playing days, our colleague here at ESPN, Ryan Clark, had this to say on SportsCenter last night.
This is about Damar Hamlin. And it's about a young man at 24 years old that was living his dream, that a few hours ago was getting ready to play the biggest game of his NFL career, and there's probably nowhere else in the world he wanted to be. And now he fights for his life. And when Damar Hamlin falls to the turf and when you see the medical staff rush to the field and both teams are on the field, you realize this isn't normal. You realize this isn't just football. I dealt with this before, and I watched my teammates for days come to my hospital bed and just cry. I had them call me and tell me that they didn't think I was going to make it, and now this team has to deal with that, and they have no answers. And so the next time I think that we get upset at our favorite fantasy player or we're upset that the guy on our team doesn't make the play, and we're saying he's worthless, and we're saying you get to make all this money, we should remember that these men are putting their lives on the line to live their dream. And tonight, Damar Hamlin's dream became a nightmare for not only himself, but his family and his entire team.
I always think of guys like Ryan Clark, welcome Coach Herm Edwards to the crew right now, as fearless, right? Ryan Clark and those kind of players. But in fact, that sells these guys short because fearless, there's no bravery in the absence of fear. They have what we're really dealing with is an overabundance of courage because what they do is scary, especially at a moment like this. Graz, what's the latest that you're hearing?
Well, a memo went out from the commissioner's office to teams this afternoon saying that what Jeremy had said, the Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed this week. He said no decision has been made regarding the possible resumption of the game at a later date, and we have not announced any changes to this weekend's schedule. Another part of that memo is interesting, and I think it speaks to what you're talking about and what RC was talking about. It talks about the additional mental health and support resources that the league wants to provide for teams. So if you're on the Bills, if you're on the Bengals, if you're on a different team and you're just shaken up by what you saw, or if you're a friend of Damar Hamlin's, the league is trying to make sure its teams know that in addition to the usual mental health services that are provided on site for each team, that more will be available to them and giving them information on how to access those. So that's something they're cognizant of right now is that players around the league may be struggling to deal with this and need some extra help.
Coach, what's your reaction to how this was handled on the field?
Last night,
Yep.
I thought the league and the first responders, all those people involved, did a magnificent job of getting out there and obviously giving this young man the help that he needed. And thank God they were there. Going forward, I think any coach, regardless if it's the Bills or Cincinnati right now, the meeting you had with your team today was a somber one, right? This is a game that is competitive violence at the highest level within the framework of the rules. And injuries occur. They occur a lot in the National Football League, whether it's at practice, in a game. But generally when they occur, you as a head coach, you go out, make sure the player's okay. You talk to him, you talk to the trainers. You generally come back to the sideline. And the first conversation you have with some of the players is, Coach, is he okay? He's going to be fine. He's going to be all right. This was not the case last night. We saw coaches, we saw players form circles, huddle and pray. And at that point, you knew there was something very difficult happening on that field that we haven't seen. I've never seen it in the 55 years that I've been involved in football. That's a long time. And it was chilling to watch. It was very chilling to watch. And going forward, I think now the big deal will be this, especially if you're the Buffalo Bills. You want information. And, that's what players want. That's what anybody wants. It's, you want information because this is a situation where we don't still have any information. We want to know he's okay. And I think everybody wants to know that. And that's what we're struggling with. This is a game played within 5 seconds. You play 5 seconds and there was a result. And that's how everyone's orientated in this game. And right now, we don't have the results of a teammate, of a player. And we want to know the results, and we're all praying that he's going to be okay.
Mike, in life, when someone we care about, when something bad happens to someone, we feel disempowered. We're watching on TV. We have no power over the situation. And anger, my father, the shrink, can tell you, re-empowers you, right? So you get angry, and the anger takes an object. And so some people are mad at the NFL because the sense is that the players and the NFLPA led the charge to stop playing. What do you think about the handling of the situation by the NFL?
Max, I think the most important thing is Damar Hamlin got incredible medical care in a very timely fashion, which is going to give him his best chance of recovery, whatever that may be. And a lot of resources and time go into the preparation and, most importantly, the coordination. We got to remember, guys, that, again, Buffalo was the visiting team. So details like the ambulance, the route from the stadium to the hospital, all those things are checked, they're rehearsed. So that is the most important thing. Now, in terms of how long it took the game to be canceled, that to me is not as consequential as getting the medical situation right. And I believe they got the decision right. Maybe it wasn't as timely as some people would have liked, Max. But most importantly, the medical care was correct and they got the right decision.
Yeah, people are angry. Again, it needs an object. The players can be mad at fans or pundits who don't focus their attention in a way that they would desire, or people can be mad at the NFL. But really, this is when you consider the number of plays, the number of teams, the number of collisions over time, there will be bad things that happen, and all you can ask is that people are as prepared as possible. It does seem as though they were prepared for this. Bills quarterback Josh Allen tweeted last night, "Please pray for our brother. We will have ABC chief medical correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton after this quick break."